Hello, hello, big baseball world. We are back. May look like we got the same clothes on, same setting. That is complete coincidence, but we are back to wrap up part 2 with JC and Larry Reed. I got my man Bam Bam here with us also. Welcome back, Seth Doggy. You ready to do
Oh,
this?
yeah, man, Neil Dog. I've been waiting for this all week, man. It's
All week.
it's been on the top of my mind all week to get the second part of the show done. Play along, Neil. The people don't
I'd
know.
rather the audience know how pathetic the two of us are because we've been talking about this since last summer. And then it's like, well, as it went on, it's like, well, it'd be appropriate to do it over the MLK weekend. And we didn't pull it together there. It's like, well, Black History Month. Nope. Nope.
Well, right? Two things hurt us in the Black History. One, it's a short ass month, right? It's the shortest month of the year.
You only gave us 28 days.
Right? We only had 4 weekends to work with, man. Come on, man. We needed that fifth. And then the snowstorm hit down in Houston. And so,
the weather,
Texas,
the weather did affect. I thought we were going to have to use
yeah.
the weather as an excuse again today because of you
Yeah,
and
right.
we were getting hammered. It's like, man, my power's hit. It's like just a half hour before we had to record. It's like, man, my power's going to go out. I know it, but it all
Yeah,
worked
right.
out. Rain's all gone. We are ready to resume. So, what we've been planning to talk about for a long time and trying to put together, and there's been a handful of things that have brought this to, I guess, us wanting to go this direction. And we're going to cover probably most of it. Not all of it fits in as well as I thought it would to begin with, but we're going to talk about a lot of things, and it's all going to have to do with race, racism, racial issues. They don't just go on out in the world.
In the NBBA, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Go ahead.
We can't
Yeah.
pretend that our little bubble, the World Series, and our our membership, our league, that racism doesn't go on. We see it unfortunately very openly. To me, the most open it is at times goes against the Taiwan program, and we could probably do a whole show on that. But
Right.
racism goes on all the way around.
Right.
I know of a Pakistani player that played beat ball and was being called a terrorist when he is up at the plate, which is all based on just racial garbage. So
Right.
that's what we're going to talk about. That's why JC and Larry Reed have stayed with us and they're joining in. They're going to share experiences that they've gone through, things that they lived through, things that they witnessed. Seth and I are going to talk about things that we know, we've witnessed, been around. So we're get it started. Seth, you said you had a story you wanted to.
No, me. I'm always kind of more the start. I like to start off things a little bit, lighthearted or whatever. And I was the most racially stunned I've ever been at the World Series. In my entire life. Um,
Uh,
there,
for clarity, if I got to ask, I'm asking for
yeah,
the audience too. Are you saying like of any time at the World Series or any time
no,
period?
period. I mean,
The period happened at the World Series. Okay.
yeah. I mean, the other time that I can think of, and it's actually a real serious one. I remember being 12 at a bar up where I got shot at. Big rural, not a very diverse place. And my brother was up there, and he lost a pool game, and some older, like 80, 90-year-old white man had bet against him. And I walked up, Joel gave me the money to go pay the dude. And I walked up to him, like, here's your money. He looks at me, he's like, oh, the nigger lost. And I remember I was just like,
Oh,
huh? I was just like stunned. I didn't even say anything. I just, whatever, gave him his money and walked away. But I was even more stunned, though not as, in the end, not as, it didn't turn out to be as quite as significant at the World Series. It was 2017. We're in Wisconsin. I don't even know where we were in Wisconsin. What was the name of the place in Wisconsin? Oshika, something like that. I don't even know what it was.
That was
Gosh.
2018. That was Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Claire,
you're right.
Eau Claire.
2018. Right.
I was
Right.
drawing a total blank on Eau Claire. It's like I did the site visit there, man. How did
Yeah, all I could think was Osawa or Osawa, and I think that was in Tulsa or whatever.
Right.
But we go out to dinner. My dad, my mom, my two youngest children, who were 8 and 10 at the time. Trajan wasn't there, and my dad is a very intellectual individual. He's up front. He's he's with it, right? He's a smart guy, right?
Oh yeah.
And so we're going
fragile,
around the table.
Old and fragile, but very smart.
Yeah, and I still wouldn't take a swing at him.
No.
But we go around the table, we order. My dad orders, and at the end of his order, he's like, and also, can we have 2 orders of calamari? And the white waiter, who had been hella cool and stuff, he's like, do you know what that is? And I'm like, huh? And then he says, wouldn't you rather have some chicken?
No,
and I'm just like, and I mean, dude, I am just stunned. I mean, just floored, right? I mean, and the guy must have seen it on my face. And in the end, he was talking to the kids, right? He was talking to the I mean, because I didn't.
That does make a lot more sense. Like,
dude,
I love
right?
calamari, but as a little kid, I wouldn't go with it.
Yeah, right. No,
crap,
dude.
So.
I mean, but I was just. Wouldn't you rather have some chicken? I was like, did this guy really just say that, man, to my dad? As we were sitting here ordering food. Oh man, it was funny. I mean, once I realized what was going on, it was funny as hell, man. So, but I was never more stunned when that guy said, "Would you rather have some chicken?" But again, race is a heavier topic, but at times there are some funny things that do come out of it. But I kind of like to, steer the conversation to an incident we're all kind of connected with, right? JC, you talked about your first year in 2001 in Cleveland when you were 11, and at that World Series, we, the Dogs, and one of our members had an incident with some of the Tyler Tiger players, right? Larry, right? So we were all connected, right?
Yeah.
And I personally, I don't necessarily remember. I remember like the aftermath of it. I don't know what actually went on, but in talking to JC, I realized that it was really impactful for you, right? You almost didn't make it back to the World Series because of it. And Larry, I know it was, it was deep and impactful for you. So I would just like to, you guys or Larry, if you want to tell us what happened, JC, from your perspective. Neil, I know you have a perspective. We all had a perspective because we're all there. What happened between the Dogs and Tyler, Texas on a racial level in 2001?
Actually, real quick, could I set it up a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
As far as where, like, leading up to what happened. With
I have no memory of anything until Saturday night. So.
I just felt like it was kind of important to set it up, like how it all played out. But so we won the Dogs won the championship. We literally went straight from the van. I remember Uncle Mike gave me a Cuban cigar in that hotel. We were in Ohio. It's 01. You could smoke in the bar there, I think. So I literally walked into the hotel with the cigar, big 18-inch Cuban hanging out of my mouth or whatever. But our whole team went straight to the bar. We started drinking, whatever. And for the audience knowledge,
That's the last thing I remember of that. Going to that bar, but go ahead.
for the audience knowledge, the championship game's always on a Saturday, and then Saturday night is the banquet where all the teams are there. It's usually a nice layout, but the banquet,
Right.
it's like 400 or 500 people. It's a big deal at the hotel, usually like in a big banquet room, whatever. So most of us hung out at the bar for a drink or two, went to our room, showered up. We were still in our uniforms. We showered up and got ready for the banquet. Two of our players stayed in the bar and got absolutely hammered. Both alcoholics, and they lived up to it. They got absolutely hammered. And they came into the banquet like halfway through the banquet, the banquet was pretty far along when they showed up, still in their uniforms, dirty, sweaty from the championship game, and just loud and drunk. And eventually our coach went over, Chris Hunsucker went over to him and said, "Man, you guys got to shut the hell up or get out of here." And they left, and their first stop was in the bathroom, and in the hotel bathroom, and I believe that's where this incident took place. Correct?
Correct.
All right, so you take over. Take over.
Okay. Yeah, it was in the bathroom, and they was in there talking. They was calling the Tyler Tigers the N-word and stuff like that. But at the time, I was not in there at the time, so they came and got me because they like, we're not bothered about it. So me, I was going to investigate. Like, what, I went in there to find out what's going on, and I tried to talk to them and reason with them, and they was not hearing it. And that's where everything escalated because they would start to call the N-word more and more and more. And it just went from there to where it was getting uglier by the minute. And I just didn't feel like, because we was on the sideline when you guys was playing, and I think y'all was playing Taiwan.
In the championship game?
In the championship game.
It was Kansas that year.
It was the Kansas? Yeah, it was. Yeah. No, it was, yeah, you're right. It was Kansas. But I don't know how, because I wasn't in there, I'm going to be honest with you, but I didn't know they came got me, and it escalated to where it was going to be a major problem because the N-word came out, and it got real bad. So I just try to get my guys out of there so that we won't be, we's already a marked target anyway. So I just try to get my guys out of there so we won't make a problem worse. Because every time that we always supported everybody,
Yeah.
We no matter who the West Coast Dog was playing,
yeah,
I can remember like yesterday. We was always, because we always loved that y'all chant DAWG, dogs in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
And we always was always, what made it heartbreaking is we was on you guys' side.
Yeah, there was,
and that's
and
what
the audience should know. Not a lot of we were the most hated team in the league. You know what I mean? That we didn't have people on our side. They might have liked us as individuals and thought our pizzazz on the field was cool, but most teams really just hated us because we're arrogant, cocky, whatever. And so, for you guys to have our back, you know what I mean? Be a team that was supporting us and cheering for us, and then to experience that probably left you with a bitter taste in your mouth.
Yeah, because like even when you guys were playing Taiwan and everybody like that, we would always sit on the West Coast side, because nothing against Taiwan, but we have to support our own, and we have to, root for our own because you guys were rolling and we liked it. We liked it the West Coast, even though you guys didn't like us, but we wasn't raised up like because we always was raised up like this. I was, is that your blood is red, and everybody got feelings, and you need to be able to support. We all, at the end of the day, we all blind.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, we're in the end, outside of beatball, nobody cares about beatball. And so if those of us can't come together on some kind of a joint level, we're kind of screwing ourselves really, because there aren't other outsiders that are going to come try to save our game. On that incident, because I remember, Seth, your dad being part of it. That's how we found out about it. Is your dad walked in while it was going on, and there's a lot of things that we're going to be talking about, and we're intentionally trying to leave names out. We're really not. We're not trying to call individuals out and jump on people. We're really trying to get people to acknowledge that we're not racism free in the NBBA, and the only way we're going to get better about it is talking about it. And this is a conversation that's 20 years past, probably needing to be talked about. But painting the picture for the audience a little further, we already talked in part one of our show with Larry Reed and JC about how Tyler was a young team, and that there were two of our players that were involved in that, but the one that got back to us as far as getting like physically involved was a man over 40 who was 6'3" and well over like 220, 230 pounds. And when Seth's big man. And when Seth's dad walked in, he was pushing one of the Tyler players up against the wall. And I don't know, I can't speak on what his intention was, but there's nothing about that I want to be part of, or, proud of, or, you know what I mean? There's nothing about that I wanted any of my teammates involved in.
The guy was pushing one of the Tyler players up against the wall.
That's how it got back to. That's when Seth's dad had walked in and broke it.
And I wish JC would have been there a long time ago.
Yeah,
but you were only 11 though, right?
I'm talking about the JC of now.
Yeah.
We're not gonna call no names, but yeah, that is true. I didn't know Steph's dad back there then, but
True. True facts though, JC. If the JC of now was there, it wouldn't have happened. They know what I mean? They
that's true.
You had a couple drunks that went into bully mode, and if somebody was there that could have put an end to it, like Seth's dad did. But you know what I mean? If the 31-year-old JC was there, they wouldn't have had the balls to do it.
Yeah, because when I found out, I came in, but I didn't know Steph's dad. Like I said, I didn't know Steph's dad, but I came in. But I do, not going to call no names, but I do remember everything about that. And so,
and we as a league, we look at it, perhaps it's just an incident, we can push it off on two drunks, but it says more about our league because it does affect the individuals who were involved, right? So I remember talking to you about this, JC, just
we're losing him.
Girl, kid,
Seth,
right?
Seth.
Can you hear me?
Your connection's been cutting out, so we don't know what you've been saying to JC.
I'm working.
No, we can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I didn't know that you're on. I went.
But I wanted to stop you before you
oh.
got going too far because we didn't hear anything
Right,
you were
right.
saying to JC. Go ahead.
Right. So JC, the again, all these incidents have trickle down effects, and they do end up affecting the individuals that are around. And you're an 11-year-old kid, and you now have 20 years in the league, but that incident almost kind of ended your b-ball career, if I'm correct, right?
Most definitely, man. I had.
What was your reaction?
Well, I was 11-year-old kid, so I didn't know exactly what was going on until like maybe the third day or whenever it happened. I wasn't there. I was kind of like in the elevator or something when it happened, I guess. But we had a guy volunteer with the Body City Heat at the time. His name, we call him GI, GI Joe, and he was there when it happened. He was just highly upset and just talking about what was all going on. And I just remember being down in the little arcade part, and I guess some of your representatives for the West Coast Dogs, were pretty much just apologizing to every black person they saw. That I wasn't. They didn't know. They didn't know I was with Tyler. They didn't know if I was with Tyler or whatever. They just know I was black, and they just came and apologized to me. But they had no idea I was with Bayou City until I told them. I was like, But well, I went home and I told my mom what had happened, and she wasn't having it. She was like, "There's no way in hell you going back, and volunteering again, And so, I had to beg her, to let me go back and keep volunteering because I felt like it was still a good opportunity, and I wasn't going to let that little incident keep me from, really experiencing things in life, you know what I'm saying? And so, she was for sure, she wasn't going to send me back. That was most definitely it.
Was there anything that took place that allowed her to, like, did like anybody from the Heat like talk with her, like what changed her mind and let you go?
Daryl Miner and Michael Garrett changed their mind.
Yeah, they would do it.
That's a nice combination.
Daryl Miner and Michael Garrett changed their mind
that would do it.
They assured that nothing would happen as far as, because she didn't, as a black mother, a single black mother, my dad passed when I was 3 years old back in '92. And so it's just me and my mom. And so, she's like super overprotective of me. And so tell her something like that happened to a grown man, there's no telling what they would try to do to a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so if you don't have supervision over your child at the time, she's very concerned and wondering what environment is she sending her child into.
Yeah.
As any parent was supposed to be. So
yeah, absolutely.
So
honestly, anybody that witnessed that, even if they were an adult, should question whether they want to be around it. I mean, you know what I mean? That was a horrible night for us, like in our history. Should have been a great night. We just won our third championship. That was a horrible night for us. We kicked both those players off our team, and I don't know how people would weigh things, but that might not even been the worst thing that went on that night, unfortunately. Right. You know what I mean?
At least on our team was that dude ended up attacking one of our players later on that night.
When I just said that, I wasn't even considering that. There's even more that, you know what I mean? That it's like that was a horrible night, and
that's just the worst
and that whole the player that was most in question, as far as like the one that pushed the young player against the wall and stuff, that individual was already on a short leash with us for calling Seth the N-word in an argument after our '99 championship. We're having it was a couple months later when we were having our end of the year party. And again, the individual in question got hammered before the party ever started. And he and Seth were having a discussion that went on and on and on. And eventually, and his argument, the person in question was that he went NIGGA, but nobody else heard A, and he was trying to defend himself. Like as a team, we probably threw that around too much. I mean, we were brothers. We didn't do it like out in front of other people, but when we're playing cards and stuff, that got thrown around. NIGGA got thrown around a lot, and he definitely went right to the argument that that's all he was saying, but nobody heard A. I mean, it just the context, everything. I mean, and from that, like from that day, it's like, you know what, you've got one more strike with us, and you're lucky to have that, and that strike was that night.
Yeah, and also that night too, because I had a lot of young people on the team, and they let their children go because they was fascinated with beat baseball and stuff like that. But to have somebody to come in and do that, one bad apple, it spoiled the whole bunch. And so, you got young adults coming up behind you, they looking at like, whoa, wait a minute. And that just to scratch the surface, but that's so that's what happened. And we had to, and I promise you, we had to get out of there that night. We had a charter bus in 01. We left that night right after the banquet because we didn't want to stay around because it was so bad.
Oh, you weren't planning to leave? You guys left because of that incident?
Yes, we left because we had youngsters on the team and we didn't want nobody to hurt them.
Yeah. That breaks my heart.
No, and in the end, I mean, just we're all here. Just so you know that was a horrible night for the Dogs, right? I mean, that was like one of our two low points, I would say.
I guess it was my lower point about it is, I guess, excuse me, Bammy, I'm sorry for cutting y'all.
No, go ahead.
But my lowest point was, I guess what hurt so bad about the whole thing is that even though you guys were playing Kansas, we was rooting for, because we always loved WAG, sure. Dogs in the house. Right. And we was on you guys' side. And that's what, at the end of, when you get that out of, I just rooted for the guys. And now they didn't turn their,
I mean, and feel? I didn't even really think about it too. Like younger players look up to, you know what I mean? If I'm a younger player in a sport I love, I'm looking up to the ones out on the field during the championship game, and to have that like just be shattered a few hours later over just bullshit,
And that's the honest truth, because like we came to like we going to support the Dog, because even though you guys beat us and we understand when we went into the game, we know that you're gonna win, you're gonna lose, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but if you like a team, even I knew that. It was different, but I wanted to show them that if we stick together, everybody's like, dang, DAWG, Dogs in the House. That's what they were pumped up about. And to have that happen, now you got to understand that was a letdown. And that's the honest truth.
As it should be. Something I was thinking about today, just in preparing my thoughts, getting ready for this. It bothers me that when stuff like this goes on, and I was probably a board member at that time, and I didn't do anything about it either. So I'm really even attacking anybody, but I've got to fall on my own sword. But like we got this code of ethics nonsense, thing that everybody has to sign now, and it's all, it's like. They make these big fusses over what people are doing in their rooms, if they're smoking pot or whatever. But like you hear about something racial going on. It's like you don't hear them try to write any amendments, and you know what I mean. It's like there's nobody takes any action like this is wrong. We're gonna do something about it. But you know, if you smoke a joint in your hotel room, we got to write a new code of ethics. You know what I mean? It's like, what's more important? You know what I mean? If we got people being treated wrong in our league, and sometimes, especially in the case like I already mentioned with Taiwan, sometimes very much out in the open, and not a damn thing's being done about it.
People allow the racism to go on, right? And
right.
it's, even further, right? We're talking about this, right? But I mean, I'm sure that you guys, JC, Larry, because I've especially on Tyler, coming from California, right? We got to see Tyler from the outside. You could see the racism that was directed at Tyler, right? You could just hear how people talked about Tyler, and the just the negativity, and again, and it's not, and I'm not saying this in an attacking way or anything like that. It's not like you guys were the dogs, right? We were beating people and making people hate us. You guys were on everybody's side. You know what I'm saying? You guys were good stewards of the game that nobody really should have any problem with, right? Nobody ever has a problem with Rochester, New York, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But Tyler, it was just non-stop. It has been non-stop for 25 years, right? I mean, 25 years.
And for the audience that might not know this, am I right in saying that Tyler is probably the only predominantly black team in the league, or has been most of the time?
You're correct. You're correct. And when we came into the league, it's not only with inside of the league, the NBBA. It was when we was getting started as a black team, and we went to like the Tyler PD, and we went to all the sheriff department. We had games, and everybody was on board with it. But it's just like everything that we did, it was just like the more that we tried to love, everybody hated us, and we didn't understand why people hate us so much when we just love the game like everybody else was beating everybody, down in the dirt. I mean, we just love the game too. I mean, we know we didn't go in this thing like we're not gonna get beat.
All right.
We just wanted, how you new to the game and you see a team that you like, but then if you notice that could be hurting to upcoming blind athletes. If you want this to grow, then we need to govern our mouth and try to help people to still, you're gonna lose, but you give them encouragement to keep pressing forward. And that's the only thing I had to go on, is just keep on, no matter what the world, no matter everybody was against. I felt like everybody was against us, but I kept pressing forward, and I kept looking for that day that, hey, one day I want to be like the West Coast Dog. One day I want to be like Bayou City Heat in '02. I want to be. You want to be like somebody. But if you keep downing and beat everybody, it's not strong like everybody. Every team. If you keep beating them, you're gonna lose people.
In general, it doesn't matter what people are doing. It's like you need support. You know what I mean? Not being pushed back. You need to be pushed forward, encouraged. Especially when you're trying to build a program or whatever. So, I mean, support.
Hey, Jason, go ahead. That was all. JC. So that's kind of how you came into the league in 20 years ago. As you have progressed as a catcher and as a coach, do you still see racism in our league? Have you had run into different incidents? I mean, was that I guess I'm asking, was that a one-time thing? Was that an aberration that we could say right off as two drunks, or is it more something deeper that the NBBA has to deal with?
Most definitely, it's not just the two drunks. I've run into situations since I've been a coach. You know what I'm saying? The way we're treated differently. Uh, people come at us aggressive. People come at me aggressive, and that I'm never coming. No umpire can ever say, or no coach or whatever can say I came at them aggressively unless they came at me aggressive. And it just I've run into little situations where we've been to little outside tournaments, regional tournaments. For one, I can remember most recent in Dallas, back in 2017. Went up there and just for a little small weekend tournament, and just the way I was treated, or the way Larry was with us. Actually, they played with us, and the way we were treated, it was just ridiculous. And I know if I were to react it, I really, to be honest with you, I thought I was going to have to go to jail. And that was just all. I'm not even joking. I thought I really was going to have to go to jail. I really thought, because that if I would have reacted, then most definitely it would have been bad.
Can you share what happened?
I'm not sure I like I say, I don't start anything with anybody. I remember my team, when we got there, we had a game that morning about 8 a.m. And I remember it was a team that we were getting ready to play. I don't really want to name names or name the team, but it was a Texas team. And so they were batting when we got to the field. So we just put our stuff down and start stretching or whatever. And we noticed they moved to another field way off to the left. And so we took the field and we were doing a little defensive practice, and they were still batting on that other field. So their balls start flying over onto our field. So Daryl Miner says, "Hey, y'all watch out with those balls. It almost hit me in my face." Their coach is walking over to get that ball that flew over, and he's like, "Are we allowed to curse on here?"
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. He's like, "Well, get the fuck off the field. Get the fuck off the field then. You motherfuckers, you think you're something, get the fuck." He's just going off for no reason. And, and I'm asking him, I come over, I have a bat in my hand because we're doing batting practice.
You're hitting balls to the defense.
Yeah, I'm hitting balls to him, but I'm not going to hit him with the bat. Come on,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't need to hit you with a bat. You know what I'm saying? If I wanted to hit you, I don't need a bat. You know what I'm saying? So, but he's still running off at the mouth, and I'm just like, man, why is this guy acting such an ass? You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's like, if I'm not doing anything to you, I'm here to volunteer. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here for any other reason. I just want these guys to have a good time. Your guys on the other team, I want them to have a great time and be successful, as well as my guys. You know what I'm saying? And you just come out and you're just acting, man, I really never, I haven't come close to actually hitting somebody in my life, just like I came to hitting him. But I just wonder what was that all about? I've never done that to the guy. And prior to that, I hadn't really never had a conversation with him. I just was wondering. I always wondered, man, was that racially, motivated or what? You know what I'm saying? And
just a quick note for the audience: Daryl Miner also is black, correct?
Yeah. So,
and blind baseball players would make jokes like that all the time. Why, about the hitting a ball over me. What are you trying to do? Hit me with it? It's a joke. It's not.
Well, the
Yeah,
ball
I,
flew right in front of his
It's
face,
like,
and he just heard it,
yeah,
and it almost hit him in the
it
face.
wasn't
I
a
saw it.
serious thing, but
Yeah, but
he
he just
wasn't
said,
trying
"Hey,
to
y'all,
fight
watch out with those
anybody.
balls." Yeah,
Right?
and
Yeah.
he had no reason to come over and acting like that. I mean, we're all grown, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he couldn't
yeah.
have thought he was gonna come over and kick my ass. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking, but I just know I don't like being put in a situation to where I have to react because he was acting such an ass. I don't
Yeah.
know, but that tournament, that's not the only thing that happened at tournament. So we we met up there with Tyler, and we all rode in the same 15 passenger van. And all of a sudden, our van was put on. The tires are perfect. I mean, but all of a sudden, our van was on flat. I don't know what happened, but it was on flat. So we're changing our tire and everything. It's me, Fonzie, Larry, Rosie, Darnell Williams, and maybe some other players were out there, and an old picture of that used to be
Elsie
in
was there.
NBBA. Who Elsie was there also. An old
Yeah.
picture. I'm not gonna name any names, but yeah,
I'm
he
sorry.
was there in Dallas, and um, he rolled up behind us and he says, "Hey, how many monkeys does it take to change a tire?" And I'm like, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah, right.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
right.
These guys, man, I just
Yeah,
don't understand, man. Are y'all really trying to get me to go to jail today, man? I haven't done anything to anybody, man. What's going on here? You know what I'm saying? I just thought we were treated very poorly in that
And
tournament.
and
And
as I understand it, he just said that and drove off. Correct?
yeah, he just said
Like
that, and I
no
looked at him.
offer.
Yeah, I looked at him because I didn't know the guy like that. I knew who he was. He knew who I was, but I've never like that was actually like the first time I had really met him. And you know, um, I know who he was because of his past in the game and all he's done for the game.
Right.
But and out of respect for his son, I didn't say anything. But um,
There,
I just was highly disappointed and hurt by that. You know what I'm saying? Because
as you
you have
as
to know better. You can't say that to people. You have to know better, especially at that age. You just have to know better.
I agree with everything you said, and I would expect you to feel hurt. I feel hurt. I didn't know this story till yesterday, and the person involved is one of the people that I've kind of idolized since I came into the game. I've called this individual a great ambassador for the game, and maybe for the game he still deserves that, but I know, like as Seth was telling me the story, and one of my first reactions, and I think a lot of the audience probably will have the same kind of protective reaction. It's like, well, maybe, like I told Seth, like, man, I could see me making that joke to like you and Henry, but and like Seth immediately pointed out, but he doesn't know JC and them like that. Like he doesn't have
right.
that relationship. One, two.
No,
I might make that joke to Seth and Henry in my house, not like out on, you know what I mean? I'm not going to do it out on the highway. But three, and this is the part that really, I guess, is like what this hurts me also because I'm never going to feel the same about this individual. And, and it's, a lot of it's like like going back to like the 1995 World Series. This guy gave Seth a lecture, a long lecture about how we're all family. Like, and a lot of the lecture came from the way Seth and I acted on the field, not just Seth, both of us. I mean, the dog's attitude was Seth and I, but he just happened to catch Seth, and he gave him a long lecture about how the NBBA in the end is one big family, one big group, and we can't like treat people badly. And he didn't even offer you to offer. He makes a disgusting joke. Like even if like he felt like this is they're friends, like because there are white people that have no clue like what's okay, to like they think they get friendly with some black people and they all of a sudden can bust off. jokes about black people without getting their ass kicked or whatever. And a lot of times I think they're very clueless on what they're doing. Like they, you know what I mean? They're lucky not to get their ass whipped still. And so, like, even if this was a case of that, like he just, thought he was making a joke amongst friends, like to just drive off. And I can't say his friends because he doesn't like, I wouldn't even be comfortable making that joke really to Seth. You know what I mean? Even though we're brothers, we're family. And like, even if it was sarcasm, like, you know what I mean? But to just drive off, not offer anything, where's that we're all family? Like these guys, this is Texas heat, I'm guessing. You're out there changing a tire. It's like, where's all that family now? You know what I mean? You make an inappropriate joke and drive off, leave them in the heat. No offer help.
Yeah, if it was a joke, you would stay there and be like, man, let me help you guys. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no question about it. It's just like I said, I had never even met the guy prior to that, and it just caught me off guard. Now, if I react, what I'm saying, then, like I said, I'd have been in jail again. It's just you have to be. I'm glad that I was a little older and it wasn't in my younger 20s because I would have reacted, and
right.
it just unfortunately ended up putting me in a bad situation. You ought to have been the bad guy, and like I said, I can't, as a black coach or a black volunteer or whatever, I can't get away with a lot of stuff that most people, that's not black would be able to get away with. If I do one little thing, it's going to be World War III. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I feel.
And you're saying in the league, like as a coach, you're not going to get away with the same thing a white coach is going to get away with.
Yeah, I won't be able to get away with some of the stuff that I see that goes on. Even with the cursing thing, you know what I'm saying? It's no cursing on the field. I mean, it's a competitive sport. I mean, I'm a football player. I'm not a baseball. I don't know anything about baseball. I'm a football player. I would curse up a storm on that football field, because you're in the heat of the moment. If I say one little curse word, here's it, I'm out. He's kicking me out of the game. Yeah. But I've heard many of times other coaches or volunteers curse, and it's brushed under the rug. It's not even brought up. They don't warn them or anything. I've heard it many of times. Many of times. It's caught on camera. Many of times. They don't say anything.
Yeah. No, there are white pitchers in the league who throw their mitt around, cussing, whatever, don't even get a warning. But I've always looked at it, I guess, from my perspective, like I've always felt like the blind players get treated a little different than the sighted people do. Like I haven't experienced it from a racial sense, but I mean, I've noticed that, like the sighted coaches can get away with more than what the players get away with.
Yeah,
same kind of thing. But I mean, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to take away from.
No, I mean, and what we've seen out there, I mean, we have seen performances from a lot of people, not just somebody being a pitcher throwing his mitt. And I do think if JC was as expressive, because Darnell Booker, right, has caught a lot of shit, right? Darnell, or you know what I'm saying? Booker's caught a lot of stuff.
You've been speaking on Darnell's behalf for a long time. Credit to you, but even if you don't agree with Darnell, you jump in because you get tired of him being treated unfairly.
Right. Yeah. And you see that. And Darnell, and I bring up Darnell because he's a little bit more aggressive than JC. JC is not. JC is real. He's
night
not.
And day.
He's not. Yeah, right. He's not getting it. JC's not trying to get in anybody's face or anything. But
I can't even imagine JC could get a word in talking to Darnell. Probably not aggressive enough. I'll say that with love, Book. Go ahead, Larry.
One thing I will say about Darnell Booker, I will say this about him, is that he loves the NBBA, and if he tell you that, like with the breast cancer blind awareness, he if he tell you he's gonna be there to help in any kind of way that he can, now he will be there because and I will say he is a man of his word. He will use his own money to get there to help out. And he just at the end of the day, he's still gonna be done in a booker, but he loves the sport of beat
no,
baseball.
he loves it. He doesn't just love the NBBA. He loves the game and all the people involved. He will help any team that asks for it.
And he's gotten the bad rap, just like I think Tyler over the years has gotten the bad rap. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And it's and
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right to say bad rap. He's gotten an unfair rap, like Tyler's gotten an unfair rap because it's not. They neither earned a bad rap. You know what I mean?
Right,
so I'm more not that you said anything wrong, but I don't want to put that stigma out there. It's an unfair rap.
Right.
But go.
Oh, I want to say something before we switch topics or whatever. I had the pleasure of having Raku from Taiwan play with Spice here. 2018
Could
in Oklahoma.
JC, real quick, could you see if you could like move your phone or something? Because you don't sound as clear as you did. Or maybe move in. I just want to make sure people hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's better? Or
you're still muffled.
Yeah, it sounds kind of muffled or something. Are you holding it differently or something?
I switched my earphones. Hold on 1 second.
All right, because you had sounded clear as a bell before. That's all.
Now you sound all muffled.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Shaq Fu. I'm Shaq Fu. Shaq Fu, you know. I do what I do because I'm Shaq Fu.
Period. Perid. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I had the pleasure of having Raku from Taiwan home run on my team.
Okay.
2018, and so they actually came and stayed in my home for a week. And so we got a chance to talk about a lot of different things, and him and his girlfriend, they really expressed on how they felt that they are very mistreated within the NBBA, and I have to agree.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I have to agree, and I've heard the little racial slurs or and stuff like that, within the NBBA from a lot of players and volunteers and stuff like that. And I think that type of stuff has to stop, because they're, at the end of the day, they may have cultural differences or different beliefs, religion or whatever, but they're still human beings at the end of the day. And so just like if we were to go over into their home country and play, we wanted to be treated with respect and
we did. Yeah, the World Series was there in 2000 before you got started, and
I remember that.
It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I'm not a big travel person, it's the only time I've been out of the country. But it was a fantabulous sorry, my stupid made up talk. It was a I didn't catch those. That was one of my made up words for a minute. it was a fantastic experience for me. That one that I'll never let go of. But as far as their treatment, I couldn't agree more. And I felt like where it really turned was in 2004. When they made the championship game for the first time, when they came into the league in '97, everybody loved them, loved their cheers, loved their enthusiasm,
loved to take pictures with them after the game. We take pictures with you.
Loved them. I mean, they were part of our family. They made it to the championship game. And man, I don't know if you remember, Larry, but I sat on the sidelines complaining about the behavior, because the whole crowd, it wasn't just the fact that they were chanting USA, USA. It had like an edge to it. I was uncomfortable. It was and there were people saying, no, we're not going to let them take our trophy away from us.
That's true.
For one, none of you all probably ever won a trophy. What do you mean your trophy? But
that was in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Oh, four. And
Hmm.
it was ugly, man. I complained about it that entire day and still 17 years later complained about it because that's when I saw the attitude towards Taiwan change. They
Yep.
once they could come in here and
When
be the best team, oh now all of a sudden you guys ain't family no more, you know? And
Hmm.
and
Exactly.
and it's ugly.
hey, you're nothing but a bunch of cheaters. You know, I mean
Exactly.
that
Just
Yeah.
just
because one
drives me
person,
up
just
the
because one
freaking
person
wall.
says they cheating, all of a sudden they're cheaters. I don't believe that they are cheating. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean,
In
I
the end,
think
I honestly I don't want to even talk about the cheating because it distracts what we're
But
trying to
in
accomplish.
the end, but it is a slur, right, on them to paint them as cheaters constantly,
Right,
yeah,
right? It is a racial thing that it's how one of the ways that the NBBA expresses their racial animosity towards Taiwan by constantly bringing up this nonsense about cheating.
right.
yes,
Constantly.
But I did want to make a point that I think
I'm
relates, and
sorry.
it relates to Larry's team and Tyler also. Um, where I look, there were people that thought some of the Tyler players cheated back in the day, and there are people that think some of the Taiwan players cheat. In
yeah,
either case, like this is where I say I don't want to talk about the cheating because that doesn't matter in
Right,
this argument. What I care
right,
about is even if that whole entire team is cheating, why does that make you comfortable with being racial? That you know what I
yeah,
mean?
right,
That one doesn't have to do with the other. Like I even if there was proof that anybody was cheating, being racial as a response is not appropriate. It's not, you know, that just took a wrong and made it worse. It didn't.
right.
So that go ahead, Larry. I think you want to jump
Well,
in.
I
Because
think
because I'm sorry about this, Jason. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Um, because you know everybody have feelings and it just it just so much go on is that you know everybody is different. You can destroy people by let's say if they wasn't cheating, but if you said they cheating, they like well I just don't want to you know I'm just gonna give up. Everybody not strong like everybody. I'm just gonna give up. I don't want, and you could be losing a great player.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Yeah. A great player,
no,
great volunteer, like you know, JC who might not have
You
been a
know,
20-year volunteer.
yeah.
I
right? And I had one a minor in '09, and we was in Stockton, California
mhm.
in '09. She was called the NB, and it was a minor. And the parents they came to me and said and she was in the pool in '09 at the Hilton, and
Oh,
she was called an NB, and that left a bad taste in their mouth
Yeah, it should.
right.
about
I mean, it
there's just so
should.
much going on behind the scene that I think that what you guys are doing, I think it's great to be brought out because if everything's left behind, you're never gonna know what's
Right.
there.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. No, I mean, none of this gets better without starting with the conversation. You know, if people aren't being honest and acknowledging, you know what I mean? It's like anybody that doesn't think there's racism going on in the NBBA as much as I love, as much as we all love the NBBA, but anybody that doesn't realize there's still racism that goes on, it has a bigger blind problem than any vision can fix. I mean,
Right.
it goes on, and on the Taiwan thing, you know, I was still on the tournament committee when the World Series was in Rochester, New York. Was that 15 or 16?
16.
In 16,
I think it
and
was 16. Could have been 15. I don't know. 15. 15. 15. Doesn't matter.
yeah. So after that World Series, there someone who lived here in the states, um, but had gone out to volunteer for the Taiwanese team, and the Taiwanese group that comes over here, they always have a large contingent of volunteers from here in the states. They contact the local Taiwanese association. in each city that the World Series travels to, and they spend months and months gathering volunteers, and they have host families, like a lot of cool stuff that goes on. And one of these volunteers that lived here in the States went out and said that he and his family had, couldn't have been looking more forward to it. They're excited about it. That was a great event. And they were so disgusted by how the NBBA treated the Taiwan team, the racism thrown their way, and the cheating thing. Obviously, you know what I mean. The whole team they from top to bottom at times gets treated like they cheat. But the racist comments, all of it. And because I was on Dan Green was the president then, and because I was on the tournament committee, I was able to witness the conversation that went back and forth between Dan and this volunteer. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but I felt I was very proud. Like Dan Green and I don't always see eye to eye, but I was very proud of how Dan responded to that. He cared about it very much, and he had quite an exchange back and forth. But I mean, this volunteer is very adamant. It's like, I will never go near the World Series again. And how many other people do we lose, like young players, young volunteers, people that can fall in love with the game, like the way we have, the four of us have? How many of those people do we lose because of this bullshit?
Exactly. And I hate to interrupt you.
No,
That's what I was getting to. That's what I was getting to, as far as, if we want to make this a global game, and we want to invite other countries, and want this the NBBA, the game of beat baseball, to expand, you can't have that, because you're starting to get teams from Canada. You're starting to get, you got an up and coming team, which I really think is going to be pretty good in the Caribbean team pretty soon. And then you're talking about teams from Puerto Rico now, and you cannot have that. That's a big problem. At the end of the day, we're all a human. We should be able to accept each other's cultural differences and different beliefs, and accept that, just like they can accept it from us. They don't treat us any different. You know what I'm saying? So why are we doing that to them and calling them names, and not treating them fairly? And I just hate that, man. It's very discouraging. And so I just feel like I said, we're losing a lot of good people. You don't know who you're pissing
Exactly
off.
right. Exactly. Like, we would be sitting here talking now. You and Seth wouldn't have the friendship you did if your mom didn't let you go back and give it a second try. You know what I mean? And that's sad. I mean, you've been a head coach of one of the best programs in the league. You know what I mean? You've affected a lot of lives in the last 20 years. And to think that, because of stuff that shouldn't be happening, going on, almost put an end to it. It sucks. Because that for somebody that it has ended. You know what I mean? We don't know what we're missing because of this nonsense.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. And I just think that, we're all grown adults. Most of the league are adults, you know what I'm saying? 90% of the league, we have adults.
Yeah.
I just think that there should be some type of responsibility and accountability. Even if it's your teammate, you hear your teammate saying some racist stuff or whatever, you gotta hold them accountable. You know what I'm saying? That's not okay.
No, I totally agree. I mean, look, it's a blind sport. We don't want to be discriminated against as blind people. Why, you know what I mean? Why would anybody, like, if we don't want to be discriminated against, that should be enough evidence that we should not discriminate to any of the players for being different, whatever their difference is.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We pay to play. We don't get paid to play. So why are we treating it so bad? I mean, why we can't enjoy what we pay to go do when you got other people out there getting paid millions of dollars and they carry out like children on the field, but we got to pay and we still go out there and act stupid?
Yeah.
It's not right to, that everybody's having this experience of the World Series and loving it and enjoying it, getting all of this out of it, but your black players are having a different experience, right? They're not. It's not. It's not as smooth or as fun. I mean, I was thinking, I've been called the N word twice by dog teammates. You know what I'm saying? Um, uh, and that's not necessary, right? I mean, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's
Well,
just in the end, it's just not necessary. And black players don't need to necessarily have to go through that, or even minority players don't need to go through that. Taken into Taiwan, we should have, or we should strive to have everybody get out of this sport all they possibly can, and to shut people down or to treat people differently because they're black or they're dark skinned. That's ridiculous. Somebody needs
because
to
sometimes when when we have the breast cancer blind awareness in Tyler, um, a lot of people that's that battling breast cancer or blindness, uh, if you can if you can help one person out of the whole group, you done did a whole lot because somebody got something out of it. Because if if nobody does nothing, it's just gonna stay there. It's just nobody, you know what I'm saying?
I
right. Yeah.
totally do. Yeah, I've done a lot of public speaking over the years, and I mean that's kind of the way I always felt coming out of it. It's like, you know what I mean. I didn't always have like a big audience. I didn't always have the most attentive audience, whatever. But it's like, man, if a seed was planted with any one of them, you know what I mean. It's good enough.
Nutrients are always good, Neil Dog.
Comes all
Hey,
back to nutrients.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
go ahead.
Unless we want to do a third part to the show, we're part past like an hour.
All right,
So,
all right.
uh,
There.
but I do want it doesn't mean we have to wrap up. But if there's thoughts you guys want to, spread out there,
I have a couple things that I plan to share. That I won't go too deep with or whatever to wrap it up. But Larry or JC as our guest, do you guys have anything you still want to throw out there?
Yeah, I do. You guys asked me about something that I regret. Within beatball. At the
Right.
time, you were asking me about something on
Way
the
back
field.
in part one, last
Yeah,
week.
yeah, like on point one. But I was making sure at the time you guys were talking about on the field, but off the field, there's definitely I have things off the field as well. My relationship with Darnell Williams, most definitely, I didn't like the way it ended here in Houston, and most definitely Darnell's like family for me. Darnell can kind of rub you. Anybody who knows Darnell, he can rub you the wrong way with his opinions. He's very opinionated, but at the same time, I love Darnell. I have a lot of great memories with Darnell from the time he was with the Bayou City Heat. And so, I would just, I would hope that one day we can kind of, rekindle our friendship, because it sucks. I think about Darnell almost on a weekly basis, man. It's just, and then also my relationship with the Boudreaux, Charles and Helen Boudreaux. Watched them when I was a kid, and they were like another father and mother to me. I mean, they
Right,
treated me
right.
nothing but kindness, and my respect for them kind of got in the way. I would say I know you kind of like, well, how does respect get in the way? Well, when you're a kid, you know what I'm saying? You're young. I was coach of the Bayou City Heat when I was 22, 23 years old. I'm still learning things, but they were still around. And so, we had our issues. Everybody knows about the Blake thing and stuff like that. And that's what I'm getting to is that I regret how it played out. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Because
right.
they were very valuable to our team and in my life period. So it bothers me to this day that I can't call them and say, you know, just thinking about you, how are you doing, and stuff like that. It bothers me,
Right.
because I didn't intend for it to be like that. It's just that I felt at the time that I was, you know, being treated unfairly. So I didn't know how to handle it. Do I wish that I could have handled it better? Yes, I did. As a 32-year-old man now versus a 24-year-old man, my ways of handling it would be totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's always the case. Like as we get older, you know what I mean. A little more experience, a little more marinating. Yeah, it gets us a little more ready for the world. So I will say that I hope that for you. I'll certainly also give a shout out to Charles Boudreaux. Hope your health is well, sir. Uh, but I hope that works out. But I feel very confident that you and Darnell could have rainbow, a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Considering like that Seth and I's relationship started out with Darnell 27 years ago with that dude and Hoodlum throwing beat balls at our bench, and Seth and Darnell later ended up teammates. So I have high hopes that you and Darnell are going to be just fine in the future. A couple things turning back to like the racial thing that I wanted to throw out there, because something for me personally that started my wanting to do an episode like this, and then it grew as Seth started talking about things he talked to you about, JC, or whatever, and it just grew, and Larry got into it. But something that started for me goes back like a year. And I had heard a story that I'm very comfortable sharing as far as the source it came from. I absolutely have zero doubt that this played out the way I was told. But David Wanchik, who wrote the book Beep, about beep baseball, was doing an interview like 2 years ago. I actually have the link. It's a YouTube link. And when we put this episode up, I actually plan to share that link also, so people could. It's a very good interview with David Wanchik. Like really, as I went through it to hear what I was looking for, there's a lot of like history about the league and stuff that I think made it a really good interview. But he was interviewed by someone who played back in the mid '80s, and that individual is a black player, and brought up the fact that when he was in the league, he saw racism, and he liked how he was, more than anything, I think, complimenting David Wanchik on how he kind of put an honest accounting of like how the Taiwan team was treated and all that stuff we've talked about here on the show. Like how he dealt with that straight up without kind of taking a side or anything. But it was a very brief interaction. A black man who played in the league in the mid '80s said, look, there was a culture of racism when I played in the league, and I'm glad you addressed that, even if on a small level. I'm glad that you kind of attacked that. And when that got back to the league, there were members of the board. I don't know how many. I don't know how much strength it had. There were a member of the NBBA leadership that felt like it'd be appropriate to stop promoting David Wanchik's book, Beep, because of that exchange. It literally, it was nearly word for word. Seth, you heard the exchange. Am I leaving out anything important? Like, I thought about sharing my screen and playing it, but it's such a not useless. It was useful for the conversation. It was such a useless reason to react that I'm not even going to play it. I'll put the link up and people could hear the whole. It's a good interview. They could hear the whole interview, or go look for that. It's like 35 minutes in. But the league they had thoughts of not promoting his book over this little tiny exchange. And part of it was one of the NBBA members who was around back then, an older white person, said, I don't know what he's talking about. I didn't see it. It's like, oh, really? An older white person didn't recognize racism, so we're going to put the clamps down on David Wanchik's book? Are you kidding me with this fucking bullshit? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's just so childish. How the fuck are we ever going to get past racism when we're going to react to something that's not even like something to react to? We're going to take a stance. Our league's going to take a stance over a little tiny interaction rather than give a shit that there was racism. Look, the first beat baseball game I ever experienced, I wasn't playing in it. It was in Palo Alto in 1986. We went down. My team is kind of like Larry's, like we talked about in part one. Larry's team, they practiced, but they weren't ready for the World Series. That was us in '86. Well, in a lot of years actually. my first team, more than just 1 year. Larry was much more successful than me, but our team drove down to this Palo Alto World Series, and the East Bay Blaze were playing the Oklahoma City Bombers. And at one point, the umpire had to tell the teams to stop talking to each other. They were forbidden to interact because it had gotten so racially uncomfortable. And the East Bay Blaze had two great players, twin brothers, James Slick Watts and Kimmy Watts. And they both made the All-Star team in '86. I mean, they were two fantastic players. But somebody on Oklahoma was calling them. I can't remember. I was there on the sideline. I remember thinking it was stupid. I mean, they were being racial, but like in a childish, they were calling them like twin chocolate bars or it's like something stupid. And it is stupid, but it's not. It's racially motivated. So I shouldn't call it stupid because it was stupid on the part of whoever was saying it because it was still racial. They might not have been using the N word, but they might as well been because you know what I mean. Just like with the monkey joke, all that shit. It all means the N word. It all comes back to the same damn thing. And I don't know. So like, this man played in '84 and '85, and this member's like, oh, I never saw racism. It was wide open in '86. It was wide open in the '04 tournament against Taiwan. There's racism in our league, people, and we're not having this conversation. We didn't throw out any names because it's not about who said what. It's about it being wrong, and we should all care. Our board should have stepped in and said, man, I'd be proud of our board if the leader said, you know what? We need to look into this. We don't, even if it was a long time ago, we need to look into what's going on now. But no, instead, you know what? We're not going to promote. Now, they wanted to take the stance. They won't promote the book anymore. Now, I reached out to David Wanchek, and I have it straight from him that they never said a word to him. They never, to his knowledge, did anything to not promote his book. And I'm glad for that. But why'd they have the conversation? I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of our NBBA leaders that thought that was worthy of a conversation and that your action should be to shut down David Wanchek's book and the promotion of it. You should be ashamed of yourself. Any one of you that's hearing this that thought that was part of that, be ashamed of yourself because you acted foolishly. And I'm sorry, but I needed to get that out my chest.
I want to say one thing. I want to say one thing that we was there in we was at the World Series, and I think it was 010, and somebody said, "Is Tyler still playing?"
You said 010.
I said they came downstairs. I think we was at Minnesota, and they said, "Tyler's still around? Why shouldn't we be?" I mean,
right.
Why shouldn't we be?
For context, did they mean like after all these years, or like this deep in the tournament? What?
No, they were saying like after all of the years that we still was around.
Right.
I mean, we it's easy to quit, but that's what some people want you to do. They want you to just give up and quit. But if you love something and you got the love for the sport and you believe in what you're doing, you got to keep fighting no matter what it is. You got to keep fighting.
No, and that's true. We also need the board to kind of recognize the what minority players are seeing, what minority players are saying, and try to do what they can to 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 rid ourselves of that. Because, like
Even
JC said, we are becoming more of an international sport or whatever. But their idea of kind of like quote unquote turning a blind eye
Well, but
to it,
it's
it
like
isn't it
Bam
doesn't
Bam.
work.
It's like, okay, it's like you, Bam Bam. When we met the West Coast dog, okay, and I'll be honest as I can be. When when I met Bam Bam, I looked at the Bam Bam because even though I know that the dog, they wasn't with on with Tyler, whatever, but it was always about, you know, Bam Bam, we went back to Tyler, and that's why I can honestly say on everything I love that through it all, I will say this, that we always supported the West Coast dog, even when people was against us, but we always sit on you guys' side, and I ain't gonna take that back.
Oh, you
That's now that's the
gotta
truth.
love that.
no,
You always gotta love that, man.
and
Guys have
I
been in our
said it.
corners.
I said it in part one, and probably really, I don't know that anybody more than Seth would really understand the significance of it. But Seth, I meant it earlier. It's like, well, we didn't have support like that from teams, and to think that
Right,
like the one
right,
team that was
right,
like, cheering
right,
us on, having our back,
right.
a few hours later had the experience they did with our players. I'm that, that ain't
Right.
right, but I don't know. I wanted to jump in a minute ago when you were talking about the NBBA as far as recognizing. It's like I don't expect the board or anybody in the NBBA to have an answer because racism's not had an answer for hundreds of years or longer. Professor, I don't,
Oh, racism started in the 1500s actually as a support of black chattel slavery in the New World.
so so
But I digress. Go
so
ahead.
I'm not expecting the NBBA to have an answer. Asking you to please care. Will you please
Right.
just care? Listen to this episode and hear some of the disgusting things that have gone on. Just care. Let's all start caring more. Nothing wrong with
Aw.
that. Doesn't cost nothing to care,
Oh,
man.
it don't
Yeah.
cost that. It don't cost nothing to believe, deal dog. It costs nothing to believe. Believing
So
is free.
it's kind of like you're gonna have people who actually gonna listen to this podcast here, and they're gonna say, "Oh, those guys are being overly sensitive."
I don't know. I think that was really deep, but you went back to muffle mode, and I tried to find the. Did you catch it, Seth?
I did
Can you
not.
hear me
Yeah,
now?
We
yeah.
can hear you now.
It
All right.
sounded
All
deep.
right.
Like the tone, like you had everything right, JC. Just try it again. Take
Well,
two.
what I was saying was sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, you
That
clear now.
that you know the thing is that you're gonna have someone or some people that's gonna actually listen to this podcast and they're gonna say, "Oh, those guys are being overly sensitive," and that's how they do. Saying they instead of listening and understanding how you're making people feel, you're just
Right.
blowing it off and saying, "Oh, they're being too sensitive." But if the shoe was on the other
Yeah,
foot, and let's
exactly
say
right.
we would go over, and Taiwan has their own teams. They have like 8 teams over in Taiwan, and
Right.
they have their own tournaments. But we've been invited to, and let's say if one of our teams or a couple teams went over and played in their tournaments, and they treated us the same way that we treat them over here, will we like that? Will we be okay? No, we
Right.
wouldn't. So those are human beings also over there, and they have like Larry said, everybody bleeds the same, and everybody has feelings. Man, don't do that.
And just responding, man. If anybody does, like JC says, say that they're being too sensitive, come find me. Let's talk further. Come, any one of us, come seek us out. As you need some more listening time. This. It's exactly what JC said. Put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
No, nobody likes to be pooped on, disrespected. Nobody likes it. Stop doing it, and stop not caring if you see it. Stop not caring. That's one thing I'll ask of everybody, all 15, 20 people that listen to my show every week. Just kidding. I'm happy to
Our
have
show.
I know. Anybody that listens, please just care. That's the perfect starting point. Just give a shit.
Yeah.
It's a good starting
Yeah.
point.
Neil Dog was cussing, and but that was good. I'll just point something out as we close. I remember talking to Neil like 4 or 5 hours ago, thinking, man, we could get this done under an hour.
We met both parts. Both parts. So, we spent about 10 minutes with Larry, 10 minutes with JC, 40, 45 minutes talking about life. Not even close.
I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hey,
But
gentlemen,
good,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate your words. And I hope that I hope the people hear it the way they need to.
And we will have you both on individually with your teams as the World Series nears. Hopefully we can have Tyler on. Hopefully we can have my squad, the Bayou City Heat, on.
Absolutely.
And but I thank you. That this has been a good time. I've appreciated it. Glad I started with my chicken story at the beginning.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up then. Thanks, everybody. Like Seth said, we'll get you guys back and highlight your teams more. We'll do that. Seth brought up like the California team earlier. What they called it?
Pasadena.
I couldn't get Pasadena in my head, but Pasadena. I was thinking Las Vegas. Like, for us being West Coast people, there's 2 West Coast teams we haven't paid no attention to.
No attention to. You know why? Because they ain't winning. They ain't winning.
I
I was just joking, man. It's having a good time.
I talked to some of those Vegas people. They seem to be pretty cool. I wanna try to link up with them sometime and maybe have some type of a scrimmage or something.
I think that's another thing that Darnell went out to. I think Darnell went out to Las Vegas when they had like a little 4-team tournament or something. So.
I do think so too. Yeah. JC and I will meet up in Vegas, JC.
Yes, sir. Once again.
Meet up in Vegas.
We met up in Vegas a couple years ago, man. We had a blast.
Fortunately, I heard stories, but they can't be told on the show. So we're out, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, Larry Reed. Man, I apologize. When we talked to Tyler, man, we got to get Rosie out here. I'm a big Wool supporter. So I meant to ask about being a married couple and stuff in the first part. So we're gonna have to cover that next time. But thank you, Larry Reed. Thank you, JC, and everybody else. Be smart, be safe, be considerate. Masky up, everybody. And
hold on. And between the two, the 2 episodes, I will have been vaccinated. Yay!
You're
time you see this, I will have a vaccine.
Selfish. Save it for the old fragile people like your daddy. Love you, Pops. All right, everybody. We will see you technically in 2 weeks.
One more thing. Cowboys suck.
Yeah. You got that right. Good night, Aunt Cindy.